Hi, my name is Trevor Smith. Welcome to Full Burn, where we kick some tires, light some fires, and interview awesome space and defense founders across the industry. Today, I'm with Jonny Dyer of Muon Space. Jonny, where are we today?
We are at our headquarters, in Muon's headquarters in Mountain View, California, just driving out to go hit the roads.
And you got some new offices coming online, huh?
Yeah, so we have about an 18,000 square foot place here. It's our headquarters, kind of our first shop, and we're now expanding into a much bigger, like 130,000 square foot place in San Jose.
What are we in today, Jonny? Because you got pretty excited when I texted you.
We are in a Lotus Emira.
And it sounds like, for once, you know more about this car than I do.
Yeah, well, I have a little bit of a thing for Lotuses. My wife lived with a guy way back, like not roommates with a guy a long time ago that had one of the first Elises that ever got imported to the US. And so I got to drive it some and kind of fell in love with Lotuses. So anyway, this is a cool car. This is the new one.
So is this a V6, inline 6, do you know?
I actually don't know what you've got. They've got a supercharged 6 and they've got a 4.
This has a turbo for sure.
Okay, so this is a turbocharged 4.
We will hear the blow off valve.
Yeah,
because this one's quite loud.
Yeah, so this is I think it's an AMG turbocharged 4, and they also have like a supercharged Toyota V6 they put in some of these.
Since we're on the interstate, we'll change this up.
Crackles a little bit when you come off the gas, huh?
Yeah, a little bit. Let's see. Let's get around these folks. So tell me, who is Jonny Dyer?
Oh, that's a big question. The short version is I'm an engineer. I've been an aerospace engineer my whole life. I'm kind of a space geek growing up. Built and blew up rockets in my backyards. Scared my mom to death. Went to school.
Wait, hold on, let's pause. You blew some stuff up at your house?
Oh yeah. I mean, I grew up in Texas on acreage and was kind of left to my own devices to play with anything I wanted to. So I built rockets and got into all kinds of crazy stuff and scared my mom to death in the process several times.
Are we talking Estes rockets, or are we talking like...
No, these were a lot more powerful than Estes. I mean, it was solid fuel rockets, but I was mixing my own propellant and making, like pretty serious... What we'd think about now is like kind of high-powered rockets, but, this was all from scratch stuff back then.
How did you get into that?
Early days of the internet, man. Like I was kind of a computer geek too, and there was a lot of stuff, in the early days of bulletin boards and stuff that you could find about anything you wanted to find. And so there was a lot of stuff I dug up and kind of learned some stuff from that, and then just played around a lot and learned what worked and what didn't work, and built a lot of stuff and iterated. Some of them worked and some of them blew up and some of them never lit in the first place. I mean, it was, it's pretty pure fun engineering to be kind of a high school kid rolling your sleeves up in the garage just building stuff.
So what altitude in high school do you think you hit?
Not that high. I mean, it's hard to estimate, but like, it was probably in the like couple thousand feet, not super high. Nothing that crazy. Like I never built anything that went supersonic. I never got a sonic boom. So I know it wasn't that powerful, but they'd go out of sight. Like I'd build 3 or 4 foot rocket that you wouldn't be able to see at the apogee. So they were going pretty high.
Wow. So scared your mom a little bit in high school, and then from there you went?
I actually came out to California for school. I went to Stanford. I actually came out on a baseball scholarship, and I played 3 years of baseball on Stanford's team and did engineering. Kind of quit baseball after my junior year, and wanted to really focus on figuring out what I was going to do my career, and got an internship at SpaceX in the super early days of SpaceX. So you mentioned Tom earlier. I got to know Tom Mueller. As an intern there in like 2004, and they shipped me out to Texas again. So that was their test sites in Texas. So since I was from there, I got to be one of like 4 people out, basically in the middle of nowhere, Texas, doing a lot of the early rocket engine testing.
That wasn't the Brownsville side. This is
McGregor. This is like Central Texas. So it's their primary kind of like engine and kind of like subsystem test area that's been there since the early days of SpaceX.
Got it.
So I did that. I also interned at Blue for a couple of years in grad school. So I got a lot of kind of early exposure to some of those companies. And then when I left school, I kept working on rockets for a long time. I worked for one of my professors. We were doing like rocket research stuff. And that was fun, but not really going anywhere. So, kind of spent like 3 years doing that. And then one of my buddies from Stanford started Skybox Imaging, which was kind of the first like venture-backed Silicon Valley satellite company. I mean, there was, SpaceX, and Elon was kind of self-funding that. But at the time, like nobody really was seriously considering venture funding space companies. And so my buddy Dan from Stanford, kind of after getting told no a million times, was able to get Vinod Khosla to fund his Series A. And we ended up, building like 20 kind of mini fridge size satellites. I think it's still the largest constellation of high resolution imaging satellites ever built. And that was a great journey. We went, like 4 years. We ended up getting bought by Google, and we operated Google for about 4 years, and then eventually Google divested it, and we kind of went off and did different things. But that was a great experience. I mean, it was kind of like 0 to 10 startup experience. I was the chief engineer there, so got to touch every bit of hardware, software, ops, imaging systems, propulsion, all of it. And then after Google sold that, I hung around at Google for a couple more years and then left and did autonomous vehicles actually for a couple of years. I joined Lyft's AV program and ran the hardware team there. And that was, it was not aerospace, but it was like, there were a lot of carryover from aerospace. And I thought it would be really interesting to kind of see a different space and get some exposure to things like robotics and some of the AI stuff that was going on at the time. So got a lot out of that. That was really cool, but they sold that. They divested that. Lyft basically couldn't afford it. So they divested that to Toyota in this would have been like 2020. And I left that kind of not really knowing what was next. And then, hung around the hoop and talked to a bunch of people that I knew from Skybox and some people I've been working on other things with. And that's what kind of like eventually crystallized into starting Muon in mid 2020 or early 2021.
Wow. So were you a solo founder at Muon?
No, there's actually 5 co-founders, which is a lot. Everybody tells me it's
Quindar's got you beat. They're at 6.
Oh, they're at 6?
Yeah,
okay, yeah. 5 co-founders is a lot, but all my co-founders are amazing in different ways, so they all brought something unique to it. And it was kind of like 2 groups. One group was a couple of folks I'd worked with closely at Skybox, Paul and Pascal, and then the other 2 I got to know on a project I was advising for called MethaneSat, which was this kind of global methane monitoring mission, Dan and Ruben. And so when we were kind of looking at starting the company, they all had sort of unique experience, and so brought them together to start the company with me.
So out of the 5, did you just self-nominate yourself as CEO?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of the hub. I was the one that brought everybody together and had the idea and stuff. And so there was no real controversy. Everybody was like, it was almost like nobody else wanted to do it. So it was left to me.
So speaking of that, what was like the first day, the inception, the seminal moment of Muon? Like, what was that light switch? You were like, we got to do this.
I mean, I think it was really kind of heavily motivated by 2 things. So Dan and Ruben and I had all been involved in this MethaneSat project, which was like, it's hard to describe in detail. I'll keep it short, but basically it was a project where a nonprofit was trying to pull together a satellite mission that historically you would only thought of like NASA trying to do. Yeah. And they kind of thought that it was going to be easy, that like the space ecosystem had changed and there was all this, commonality and, parts you could buy and put together. And it ended up being super hard and costing way more money and taking way more time than they thought. And we were like, man, there's got to be a better way than this. And then that was kind of half of it. The other half was Pascal, Paul, and I had gone off and done different things since Skybox. And we had this kind of constant thread that like, we solved a lot of problems and built a really cool system at Skybox, and we felt like nobody had replicated that. Like the industry was still behind and hadn't gotten there. And so between those 2 things, we're just like, man, there's an opportunity to go and kind of recreate some of the stuff we did in Skybox, but do it in a better way and solve some of these really big, hairy problems the world has. And I think, at the time we didn't really know exactly what the market for that would be or other things. And what we found is there was an extraordinary need for it, and it's just been like this explosive growth from that model. And so, obviously on the defense side, national security side, this has become a super hot topic, and our kind of like end-to-end focus. We're not just selling components or a bus. We're really trying to deliver end-to-end missions and operational solutions. Has really like kind of, I think, resonated. And then even on the commercial side, as you know, there's like just a ton going on in the space right now, and there's so many people with creative ideas trying to get something in space and prove it out, and we've been able to really tap into that, I think, in an exciting way. So it's been pretty fun.
So give me the 30-second highlight, big bullet points, if you were to send an investor update out that's public information. Like, what are the Muon's big highlight reel?
Yeah, I mean, last year we signed more than $100 million in new contracts. We've got really significant revenue for a company of our kind of age and scale. We are building what I think are some of the most exciting missions in the industry, things like FireSat. So FireSat's a global constellation of satellites. You just got to see some of the satellites in the clean room, that are really meant to put a big dent in the wildfire problem, which is obviously something, especially in California.
It's home here,
yeah, high in everybody's mind. And it's the kind of thing that I think is a perfect example of like how powerful satellites can be in terms of solving real problems on Earth. So we're just super lucky to have these kind of really exciting, impactful missions we're working on, like FireSat, but also we feel like having a really strong kind of foundation of business that's growing extremely fast. I mean, I think we're expecting to kind of more than double a lot of the metrics we hit last year this year, and we're basically just trying to scale the company as fast as we can.
Wow, that's awesome. We're heading up in the hills here. So what's on the horizon for Muon?
I mean,
for 26.
Yeah, a lot of growth. So as I mentioned, we're transitioning this new production facility. They'll move us. I mean, you saw us. We're pretty packed in Mountain View. We can kind of build maybe 10 to 20 satellites a year in Mountain View. We'll be at a capacity where we can build hundreds in the new facility in San Jose. So it's huge kind of uptick in sort of our ability to execute. That's a big one. We got to do a little bit of. We're very vertically integrated in a lot of ways, and we've been finding ways to vertically integrate more. There you go. Yeah, it's got a little kick. It's not bad for a 4-cylinder.
No, not at all.
I think this thing only weighs about 2,500 pounds or maybe less. It doesn't weigh much. So there's a bunch of stuff we're doing.
Hang on, what is this one?
That's another one.
Is that another Lotus?
That's the same thing. That's what we're driving.
Cool.
Yeah.
Never seen one before. See two in the same day.
Yeah, they look good, man. They're really good looking. So there's a bunch of stuff we're doing, beyond just kind of the current execution on core technology. We actually did a small acquisition last year for a prop company that you saw, the thruster on the satellite.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of roadmap stuff there. Over time, we'll be doing more in the prop space. We have some, inside stuff we're doing around verticalizing more on components this year, but also we'll probably be looking to do some more kind of small M&A stuff to shore up both supply chain, but also kind of unique mission enablers, things that are kind of buying us into, especially on the government side, sort of big opportunities from a payload perspective and other things. So there's kind of the core, just scaling the company and building out, larger scale production and stuff. And there's kind of a bunch of stuff we're doing that we think are really going to differentiate us long term in terms of the missions we're working on.
So one of my favorite questions I love asking, can you describe a time where you did something a little crazy to save a program, land a customer, land an investor, rent an exotic car, took them out driving? Was there something that blew up, like any sort of crazy, hey, we saved it or we closed it kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We've had a couple of diving saves on getting satellites launched. I'm trying to think of a good one that would be worth.
Have all your satellites that have launched, are they all?
Yeah, they're all working.
Hadn't had any failures?
No failures.
Wow, way to go.
No, we've had good, knock on wood, we've had pretty good track record so far.
I'm glad I didn't know the answer to that question before I asked it.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, I don't want to say we're going to be perfect forever, but we're trying to do the best we can. Let me think. That's a good question. We had a satellite that we found, this is a good one. So, we were in the very late stages of testing it. We had already gotten signed off by SpaceX to launch. And we were doing like, solar array deployment testing, and we basically found a critical issue in a board, like super late. Things all done, it's all tested, like SpaceX is signed off to fly it. And, we were kind of in this position of like, the only solution is to rip open the satellite in like a week and replace some stuff and retest it, because we would have to go through like a penalty test for SpaceX. And we all just kind of looked each other in the eye and we're like, let's do it. So we were able to kind of pull the satellite apart, rebuild it, get it tested on the launch vehicle in like a week, which was, pretty big lift. It's not the craziest thing in the world, but I think a lot of people when that happened thought we were, there's no way we're going to be on this launch, and the team kind of really pulled together.
I mean, to take a satellite apart 7 days out before you got to deliver it and test it.
Yeah, and we actually had to do some, we had to fix some stuff in the electronics and things before we could even take it apart and fix it. So that was a pretty big diving. I prefer we don't do that. Like, I prefer by the time we get to that point, everything's working, we know it's working. But our team's pretty good at, like, if we need to rally to a cause, that we can do it.
Imagine you weren't working 8-hour days that week.
That week was not 8-hour days for anybody. That's right.
A lot of coffee and Red Bulls.
And not a lot of sleep, yeah.
So you are a founder. Just for reference, can you give the audience, how much you've raised, the total and aggregate, like what was your last round?
Yeah.
And then maybe some advice for year zero founders, or someone like actually just year zero founders who like just getting started.
Yeah, so we've raised about $140 million so far. Our last round, we kind of did our last round in 2 parts, but in total it was like about 90 million, 95 million.
Was that the B round?
That was the B, yeah. And we did like a B and then a B1 about a year later.
B plus.
B plus, yeah. We actually did call it a B plus. Did you? Or B prime, and then the lawyers were like, "No, you got to call it a B1." So we did that, and we'll probably be raising more money this year. It's, as you know, a pretty good environment for it. In terms of advice, I mean, I just think one of the hardest lessons for me is you got to get really good at hearing no, right? I mean, persistence is key for a founder, and kind of there's a lot of things that are going to punch you in the gut, including investors telling you, they're not interested, and you just got to kind of, power through that. If you have a good idea and you can, know how to build stuff, like somebody's going to see the dream eventually, and you'll get there. It just takes time. So that's one. And I think the other one is just like, I think I've had to learn, frankly, to be a little bit more of a bullshit artist with investors. Like, you got to kind of, you got to pitch the vision. You got to pitch a big picture that you got to believe it. Like, I don't think you can lie, but you got to be able to see beyond next year and kind of think about where this could all go long term. And as an engineer, I'm not, that's not my natural state of being. So it definitely requires you to kind of get into a little bit of the.
I would say not a bullshit seller, but more like lean in on the optimism and like
the upside.
If it goes right, what could happen?
That's right.
Right. That's what you lean into.
That's right. Yeah, you got to paint a picture about how the world could change, right? Like, you can't just believe the world's going to stay the same. So, I think those are some of the ones. But yeah, I think just the resilience one is, especially for first-time founders, that's the most important part.
And we're back. Johnny's in the hot seat. All right, Johnny, we'll come out with the big one.
Okay.
Have you or any of your friends or anybody you know been visited by an alien, or do you currently have a probe inside your body right now?
Not that I'm aware of.
That's everybody's answer.
But I think if I had a probe inside my body, they wouldn't want me to know, right?
That's right. Well, maybe. I don't know.
How about you?
I can't tell you. They made me sign an NDA. So we'll jump into. So you don't have any. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
It's got a little kick.
It does. Enough for the car. Yeah. You hear the blow-off valve. I love the blow-off valve.
Probably shouldn't go too fast in here. Somebody's going to call the cops.
Yeah, we did just see the security patrol rolling through here.
Yeah.
So if you could take any technology from the future and bring it into today, like science fiction, what would it be? And you can't say like hyperdrive or transportation, because that's everybody's go-to answer.
Any technology from the future.
Yeah.
I'd say nuclear propulsion.
Okay. All right.
I think, long term, I think that's the only path for us to like really get to interplanetary of any kind.
Yeah.
And I think it's been like a long-standing dream that we've just never, I guess, invested in is the right word, or like fully realized. And they did a lot of good work on it in the 60s, and I think it's super exciting still long term, especially when we get, you know, like Starship putting on enough mass in orbit that you can really start to think about moving stuff around the solar system. So yeah, I think nuclear propulsion, it's not, I guess it's not completely a technology of the future. It's been kind of demonstrated, but I think it's never kind of, there's a lot of room to grow still.
Yeah. So today is February 9th for those listening. We recently had an announcement that SpaceX filed for 1 million satellite licenses from the FCC.
Yeah.
Can you give us your thoughts on AI compute in space, orbital data centers, and then it sounded like you did a little bit of work with Google, and then maybe what you've done with Google so far that you can talk about.
Yeah. So I mean, the answer I always give this question is like, I think it's not an if, it's a when. I think if you just look at the trajectory we're on in general, but certainly with the progress of stuff like SpaceX is doing with launch and other things in space, like we're clearly on a trajectory to putting way more, whatever you want to call it, information technology in space. Hang on,
I would just say compute. Yeah, take it right. I would just say compute, right?
Yeah, I think it's more than compute. I think it's networking. I think ultimately there's going to be storage components to it. I think there's going to be, if you really start like thinking about layers of infrastructure in space, I think compute is like one of several different layers of infrastructure that are going to go in space. And even long before you get to like, gigawatt scale orbital data centers like Elon's talking about. So let's see, I want to go north towards Mountain View here. So just make sure I don't get screwed up.
Yeah, half mile, 12A.
We're going to have, multiple layers of things like network and compute going in. So, one of the things that we did last year at Muon is we actually signed an agreement with SpaceX where we can use their lasers on our satellite and connect into Starlink.
You were the first.
We are the first to do that, exactly. And that's a good example where in a lot of ways I would say like Starlink's the first ever kind of in-space network infrastructure.
Yeah.
It's not really what it's built for, but it has that. It has these crazy laser links where you can now connect a satellite to kind of always on internet. And that totally changed the way you think a lot about like building stuff for space. And so I just think we're on a continuum of that. And the logical extension long term is going to be gigawatt data centers in space, but there's a whole lot between where we're at now and that.
Yeah, I mean, is there even room for 1 million satellites in sun synchronous orbit, or are they going to have to be in different orbits? Or,
I mean, I think there's a lot of space there. I mean, if you just think about like any orbit is bigger than the equator, right?
That's fair.
How many semis could you line up around the equator? It's got to be more than 1 million, right?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
So like, I think there's plenty of room for it, and you can move up and down in altitude and stuff. I think there's some like practicality questions about how you manage them and communications if they're real close to each other and stuff like that. But yeah, there's. I mean, I think people don't have an intuitive sense for just how much space there is in space.
Well, I was thinking about the other day. You go to a football game, like a professional football game.
Yeah.
There's more than 12,000 cars.
Yep.
In that area, right?
Yep.
And there's about 12,000
there
satellites.
Could be close to 100,000 cars in a football game.
Yeah, exactly. And they're all in that one spot. Nobody got in a wreck, hopefully. But like, there's plenty of room. Traffic jams going on right now. There's plenty of room up there. What do you think is the most overhyped or underhyped part of orbital data centers?
So I do think the overhyped part, I don't know if you listened to, Elon was on Dwarkesh the other day, got interviewed about this. And I think the thing that he doesn't have a great answer to really, he kind of beats around it, is why is this easier to do in space than on Earth? Or why is it cheaper or more economical? And I think there are some arguments about it.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's yet sort of a super, super obvious, compelling, especially in the next couple of years, that like, it's clearly, like he's saying in the next 3 years, this is going to be the way that data centers scale to many, many gigawatts of power. And I just think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit still in terms of getting more power on Earth before that really happens. I think long-term he's right. And so I think that's maybe the kind of the timeline I would say is maybe the most overhyped part of it.
It's Elon time.
It is. It's Elon time. And so he says 3 years, he means a decade, right? Like, that's probably right.
We'll have full self-driving in 2020, and
exactly.
We're now in 26, and it's almost here.
So I think that's probably the overhyped part. I think the underhyped part is like, as is the case with almost anything, like most people really have like a failure of imagination in extrapolating where we are to where we'll be in the future. And there's like this common thing about how like, humans generally are overconfident about where things will be in like 3 years, but they dramatically underpredict where things will be in 30 years. So I think everything from like the actual demand, and this is his argument, that like the demand for power on Earth will be so high, or like the demand for things like compute will be so high that it just becomes completely impractical or impossible to do it on Earth. And like, is that going to happen in 5 years? No, but could it happen in 20 or 30 years? For sure. And I think that, you think about, I was talking to my 10-year-old daughter the other day, brought up this question. She was like, Dad, like, it feels like if somebody had something sufficiently advanced and gave it, from the future, and brought technology to us from the future, we would think it was magic, right? Like, and I was like, there's a famous Arthur C. Clarke quote about that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And I just think people can't, if we had an iPhone now, we took it back to somebody in the 50s, what would they think of it? They would think it was some like alien technology. Yeah. So I think that's where the underhype comes in. It's just like sort of a failure of imagination about where these things can go.
Well, I think it was just yesterday. He's saying, Mars is taking the back seat, and they're gonna go to the moon, right? And build infrastructure on the moon instead of Mars as a priority. Yeah. My hot take, not that you're asking, is he's talked about building orbital data centers in situ on the moon. Yeah. And I think he's using that to help like fund all that and get in that direction. Yeah,
I mean, I also think like, and this has been known for a long time, but like it's way easier to put stuff in Earth orbit from the moon than it is from Earth.
Oh yeah.
It's the energy requirement, the delta V is lower, and then you can do things like build mass drivers. You can build like, basically like rail guns that are launching stuff into orbit from the moon and take it back down to Earth. So I think like if you really want to put like millions of tons of stuff even in orbit around the Earth, forget anywhere else, like you want to do it from the moon. And so you got to go to the moon to build the infrastructure to do that. This thing's pretty sweet. It could use a bigger engine. But for what it is, it's a best bang for the buck. I was telling you earlier. Yeah, I bet the 6 is a lot better. The supercharged 6. It's got a little turbo lag and it's not super torquey. But man, it feels good to drive.
Any hot predictions for the space industry in 26?
I think there's going to be a lot of M&A. I think people are already talking about that, but I think we'll see just like a lot of, several companies have raised a lot of money. Yeah. There's going to be a bunch of investors that have a ton of money coming out of the SpaceX IPO.
Yep. Assuming it IPOs.
Assuming it IPOs, right? Yeah. So both investment and M&A, I think there's just going to be a lot of it in 2026. Let's see, what else?
Will we have a, for lack of better words, functional payload on Starship? Will Starship launch a usable payload this year?
Yeah, I think they will for SpaceX. Yeah, I think they'll get some Starlink satellites up. I think the launch cadence for Starship is still going to take a while to get up. Like I would be surprised if there's more than a handful of launches this year. Call it like no more than 10. Yeah, is my guess, and I would guess less than that. I think they've got a lot of work still to do to kind of get it to like the repeatable, reliable state that, they haven't even proved all the technical challenges yet. So like getting it to kind of like a repeatable, reliable state. It's got a little ways to go still.
What's the craziest thing you've done to close a deal?
Oh man, craziest business deal or
maybe proposing to your wife. You can make it personal. I don't care.
Man. I don't feel like it's that crazy, but I've definitely jumped on red eyes to be in person with a customer trying to get deals over the line. and I feel like I'm really not very exciting from this perspective.
That's okay.
Done to close. I want to say there's like hookers and cocaine involved, but I don't have a good story.
Yeah, that's probably good. You may need your clearance at some point. I don't know if you have it now or not, but yeah.
Well, unfortunately, I don't have any stories like that, but that would be a lot more interesting for your podcast.
If space is successful, and whatever that means to you, or punch it right here, whatever.
Sorry, we got a little ways here.
If space is successful, is there anything that scares you about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always unintended consequences to things, and like I don't, at the scale that we do stuff in space now, I mean, there's bad stuff that can happen. Well, there's actually a lot of bad stuff. Yeah, I mean, I think like one of the things that really scares me is just conflict in space.
Yeah,
I think we're heading towards a world pretty quick where that's a real possibility.
And you had the U.S. Space Commander say, I think it was 6 months ago or something, we need weapons in space, like publicly saying it.
Well, the Chinese have already been doing it. The Russians have already been doing it. So like, and that's just like, space is one of those things where conflict in space would get really ugly really fast because we depend on it so much. And it's sort of, you can't keep it localized. Like you start shooting satellites down or whatever, and it inherently affects a lot of other stuff. So I think that's the thing that's maybe the most worrisome. And then I would say the other thing is just like, if we really do get to like millions of satellites like Elon's talking about and stuff, like there's all kinds of stuff we haven't even thought about from like, the astronomers are worried about light pollution with Starlink. Well, now you're going to like blanket the sky with these things. You won't be able to see anything at night. I'm going to be careful here getting up this.
Well, you were talking about weapons in space. I am wearing my space armor t-shirt, self-plug.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah. All right,
this is a sweet car.
Last couple questions. How fast have you gone in a car? Or a bike or whatever. How fast have you been in a land vehicle?
Yeah, I think the fastest I've ever gone in a car was on the Autobahn in Germany. I had an M3, and I think it was in kilometers per hour. I think I was doing like 160.
kph?
No, miles.
Oh, miles per hour.
Yeah, it was pretty fast. Yeah, it was definitely like at the edge of my comfort level. Like I couldn't push the car much faster, and I was nervous.
Blank check, what vehicle would you get?
Oh, I've actually been thinking about this lately. Blank check.
Yeah, you need a new company car.
This is high on my list, honestly, right now. I'm not like a real expensive supercar guy. Like this is a good one. I think from nostalgia perspective, I'd buy an NSX. I'd buy an old NSX.
Like a 1990?
Yeah, or 95, like mid-90s NSX. Yeah, I still think that's like the best mid-engine
I'd pull up in my 98 Quicksilver Supra Targa top.
Oh, you have a Supra?
No. We're talking about blank check.
Oh, got it.
I wish. I'm gonna get.
Well, you need to talk to Paul. He had a Supra. He had like a late '90s Supra.
Oh,
twin turbo. You should talk to him. Yeah, he loved it. Yeah.
Well, Johnny,
he's here.
Anybody you'd recommend jump on the pod?
Yeah, I've got a buddy that you'd have a lot of fun talking to. He's Zach. So he was at SpaceX really early too.
Okay.
And he ended up running he was like basically number 3 after Gwen and Elon.
Oh wow.
He loves cars. He loves building stuff. He's at Relativity Space now, so he'd be good to talk to.
All right.
Yeah, I can connect you guys.
Sweet. Cool. Well, Johnny, thanks for being on the pod, man.
Yeah, man. That was fun. Thanks for letting me drive the car.
My name is Trevor. This has been another episode of Full Burn. First one for 2026.
Cool.
And we'll catch you next time. Thanks.